seconds, 8 days, 8 weeks, or even 8 months. It lasts forever.
Oh, we're live. Can you say that I got distracted? Today, we are actually talking about distractions. And see what happens is that a lot of times we tend to get distracted. And so a couple weeks ago, I preached about Martha and Mary, and you're going to hear that verse again today, and that group of verses. But I preached about this, and because a lot of us, we get distracted with whatever's happening, and the problem is we actually have like this unlimited possibilities for distractions. There's lots of things that happen. So like in here, you might already be distracted. You know, sometimes we have things that happen in here where there's a crying kid or anybody, you ever been sitting I was watching, so I'll tell you one of the vices that I have is that I like this show called The Ranch. And so I was watching it last night, and as I was sitting there, they had a scene where he's watching the football game. One of the characters of the show is watching the football game, and his ex-wife is sitting next to him, and she's got a bag of pretzels, and she makes every noise she possibly can with a bag of pretzels. It's like, and it's like it just continues going on. I was irritated watching the show. I was like, it takes my focus away from things, and I know, like for me, I'll be driving down the road, and Melissa and I'm one of these people that ticks bother me. So if my car makes like weird noises and ticks and stuff like that, I'm like, I got to get that fixed. I got to get this done. I hate it. The wind coming in through the window, like if you roll down the windows, anybody ever roll down the back window and you get the whoop, 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 whoop? That makes me want to reach back and kill a child. It's like, why did you do that? Why did you open that window? Like, do you know what it looks like to have your head sitting in your lap, and looking back up at yourself? And so I was very, very, so those are the type of things I think that, and that's while driving, and as things get easier for us, we become more comfortable with it. You ever notice that? Anybody remember the first time you got behind the wheel of the car? Anybody remember that? I remember. I was 12. I'd just stolen my mom's Pontiac for Fiero, And I was terrified because I said, not only was I afraid of getting caught, but I was afraid if I did something to the car, I would destroy my mom's livelihood, right? She needed that car to commute in. And so I drove overly cautious. I drove, and then as things happened, right, as we grow, as we get more comfortable, we start doing this, right? We start driving. I was at the stoplight this morning, right up by the Starbucks as I was pulling out. In one hand, the person had their cup of coffee. In the other hand, they had their phone at the stoplight. And we wonder why people sit at why are we sitting at a green light? Why are we still here? I'm supposed to be driving. We've gotten overly, by the way, it was me sitting at the stoplight. No, I'm kidding. No. But that's what happens, is that we get so comfortable, and then it makes it to where we're like, and so here's one of those things is that I want to remind you to fight to focus. I want you to focus on things. And see, this series is called Travel Light because you need to be reminded that this world is not your home. And you have to let go of the distractions that are making it to where you think that this place is your home. It's the physical clutter. It's the mental clutter that happens a lot of times. Is that a lot of times we have these physical things that prevent us from doing stuff, and we have this mental clutter that prevents us from truly going in the direction that God has asked us to go. And so it's like, how do we start traveling lightly? What do we need to start doing? If you open up and you look back at the word distraction. So we're going to put up the definition here, and it says distraction. And it's a pulling apart, a separating, a drawing of the mind in different directions. How many of us, that as we start to do things, that as we go in, anybody in here, you say that you have ADHD? Because I say it. I have ADHD because my mind, I go in so many different directions. Not physically have ADHD, but I am so going. And so what happens is a lot of times I find it hard to complete certain tasks because I've got so many tasks going because I'm going in different directions. I got to take care of this. I got to take care of that. I got to take care of this. And see, this word is derived from a Latin word in the 1500s. distractions, to be pulled away, to be doing something, a pulling apart. And see, and it's every force trying to distract you, to divide your heart. That's what's happening here. I mean, see, the devil doesn't need to destroy you. He only needs to distract you, because if you are distracted, you will go in the direction that you want to go rather than the direction that God wants to go. You will destroy yourself if you are distracted. You will be the one that's taking yourself away from where you're supposed to be going, in the direction he's asked you to go. And you'll, because he doesn't have to come up. And I tell you this over and over again. The devil never comes up and knocks on the door and wearing a red suit with a red pitchfork. He doesn't show up that way. He doesn't show up and go, hey, let's go out and party. He just distracts you. He just takes your focus away from what matters. He doesn't have to do anything that's over the top of that. The distraction will eventually lead to your destruction. And so here's, so this is kind of what I love this part of when you go into this and you start reading about it. I love this part of this story of Mary and Martha. It says that Jesus and his disciples were on their way, came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him. Now, I want you to understand something. A lot of times we look at this as being bad, right? What happens here? Well, I always preach on this bad part, right? And we go, hey, Martha got so busy and forgot about Jesus, right? That's what we always do. We always pray that she got so busy. And it says here, she had a sister called Mary who sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he said, but Martha was too distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. Now, I want to be very clear about something. If Jesus showed up to your house today, like literally came, knocked on the door, what would you start doing? Like if you knew, how about this? If you knew that he was coming to your house today, if you knew that Jesus was going to show up to your house, so after church, you're here getting ready, and then it's time to go to church, and then it's time to go home, and you knew that Jesus was going to show up, that Jesus himself was going to be there, what would you start to do? You would start getting ready, right? We would start throwing stuff away. We would start cleaning up. You would make sure that the roast was out of the oven, that it didn't get burned, that everything would be perfect. You would like, I've got to make this absolutely perfect. There's no way that Jesus is going to show up to my house and have it look like just completely cluster. And so, do we see, is what she's doing bad? She's just getting ready. She's doing what all of us would do. She's not taking one of these things and going, oh, this is horrible that she's trying to get her house ready for Jesus. But she does get a little distracted by it. You know, and so she comes out and says she came to him and asked, Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do all the work by myself? Tell her to help me. Martha, Martha, the Lord answered. You were worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her. Now, here's the thing. Martha wasn't doing something bad. She was doing good. She was doing good things. See, here's the thing, though. It takes people like Martha in order for us to do the things that we need to do. So, I mean, just think about this. If you want to eat dinner tonight, you have to have a Martha in your house. Somebody has to be cooking. Somebody has to be getting things ready. If you want the bills paid, somebody has to have a job. You need a Martha. You need somebody that's doing those things. If you want the gifts wrapped and having Christmas underneath your tree, you need a Martha in your house, because if you had everybody who was just like, I want to sit in the presence of God, and I don't want to do anything else, they would be sitting on their Bibles all day long, and they would just go and study, and they would get nothing done. They would be sitting in the park and coming and sleeping on the church floor. You have to have Marthas in your home or in your life, because you have to be able to get things done. But the problem is, so often is that the Marys are the balance to the Marthas sometimes. You know, and so for us, some of the times we look at this and go, at an event, anything like that, Mary brings Tupperware instead of an actual dish to the when you start looking at the potluck. She never shows up with anything. She just goes, I got a word from the God. I'm just here for that. My prayers are that good. Let's do this. You know, and it's just, I'm gracing you with my spiritual presence. Well, instead of really, and see, sometimes for us, so often, our most difficult decisions aren't between good and bad, but between good and best. So often, our most difficult decisions aren't between good and bad, but between good and best. A lot of times we don't, it's easy to make the decision between what's good and what's bad. You can look at it and go, that's going to lead to destruction, that's going to lead to this or that. And what's good and best, that's a little harder because there's lots of good things, but what's the best thing? What is it that we're supposed to be doing? What is the best thing? What direction are we supposed to be going? How do we choose what is better? As Jesus put this in there, he said, so one, the first thing we need to do is we need to diminish the distractions. We have to diminish the distractions. And if you look at 1 Corinthians 7, it says, I am saying this for your benefit, not to place restrictions on you. I want you to do whatever will help you serve the Lord best with as few distractions as possible. So, what helps you serve the Lord the best with as few distractions as possible? What is it that we have to give up? Our common distraction, and I'll just tell you right now, every generation, every time frame, all those things has a common distraction. This one, right now, our common distraction is right here. How many people that, and so we're going to talk about this. So here's the thing, it's Father, Son, and Holy Phone is what it is. That's what it ends up being. The average person picks up their phone every 12 minutes, by the way. The average person picks up their phone every 12 minutes. Just look at it. If you have an iPhone, if you have a newer iPhone, it tells you how often you pick it up, how often you're on it, how often is it, what are you doing with it? If you're picking up your phone every 12 minutes, how productive do you think you are? Because I can tell you right now, I bet the number one app on your phone is not the Bible app. I would almost guarantee it's not the Bible app. And so when you start to see this, what sort of decisions are we making? What direction are we going? What are we doing with this? We go, I'm not productive. I have struggling relationships, and I don't feel close to God. But you feel awful close to the App Store, to Instagram, to whatever. And so here, let me even top this out. So this number was staggering to me today. Or when I was talking to Melissa about it on Wednesday, and the number was staggering to me. The average person spends 2 hours a day on Facebook. Now, that's not staggering, right? Because you were as a kid, anybody ever remember, when I was a kid, they used to talk about TV time. How long did you sit in front of your TV? They go, the recommendation is that you don't spend more than 30 minutes in front of your television every day, especially as a child, right? Who can do anything in 30 minutes? You can't even watch the news in 30 minutes. It's like it takes longer than that. That's the recommended TV time. By the way, if you look at what the American Pediatric Society, the people who look over our kids, they still recommend that 30 minutes a day, by the way, in case you didn't know. 30 minutes of TV time. That includes tablets and everything. But here we are. When iPhone put out this update, and all of a sudden I looked at how much time I was on my phone, it scared me. Like I looked at it and I said, I'm thinking about getting rid of my phone. Like I was spending close to 6 hours on my phone. And now I use it for listening to podcasts and looking at all this different stuff. But 6 hours a day on your phone. The average person spending 2 hours a day on Facebook. I want you to think about this. You're looking at what other people are doing, their highlight reel and advertisements. That's what you're looking at. If you take that, you're on track to spend 7 years of your life on Facebook. That to me is staggering. 7 years. 7 years on Facebook. By the way, I wouldn't spend 7 years, I would never contemplate anything that would take 7 years away from being able to honor God. If I had this thing to go back, if I could, everybody goes, I wouldn't want to go back to my 20s or anything. I would. If I could go back to my 20s and with the knowledge I have now and go in the direction that God asked me to go now, back then, I would do it in a heartbeat because then I could be honoring Him instead of doing the direction that I went. And I would still be able to go chase down Melissa and have these kids. I have the knowledge now. I go, I want that. I'm going to go get her. I'll go find where she's at. I know everything about her. I know where she went to elementary school, high school, all those things. I can be that weird stalker. I'm only 5 years older than her. It's not that bad. I'd have to wait until she got into high school or something. I couldn't show up at her elementary and be like, hey, what's up? And be like, oh, wait a minute here. But I would have that knowledge. I could do it, right? And see, here's the thing, is that if those relationships are destined to happen, you'll make them happen. But are they God-honoring? And if you take 2 hours every day and you're doing something that is not honoring to God, why would you do that? Why would you go in that distracted mindset? Why would you go away from that? Why would you spend 7 years away from him? 7 years. 7 years of your life. And if you're going, I don't spend that much time on Facebook, well, then you have Instagram, and you have Pinterest, and you have Snapchat, and you have all these things. Delete them. Get rid of it. It's scrolling, clicking, swiping left, swiping right, and really feeling left out and unimportant. That's the real answer. Because you're looking at everybody else's life and going, And then you refresh, hoping that you'll get that dopamine hit, hoping something changes, wondering why your life isn't like everybody else's. That's what's happening. You sit there and you look at it and you have this enviness and you're jealous of what people are doing. You look at people's dinners and you go, why can't I cook like that? Trust me, their dinner didn't look that way every night. Anybody ever gone to McDonald's, gotten the food, and go, why doesn't it look like the picture? Why doesn't it look like the picture? You want to know why? Because they made it for you to eat, not to take a picture of. When your parents and your spouse or whatever is making your meal for you, they didn't make it for you to sit there and Instagram it, to put it on Pinterest. No, they made it for you to eat. They're not trying to sell it to anybody else. Maybe the kids. But we're burning away God's time. I mean, if you thought about this, so if you take that, just do the simple math. I was on my phone 6 hours a day. 6 hours a day, just take the average of that. That's 21 years of my life. 21 years of my life. That is staggering. So does that make you wonder, maybe this is a little bit of a distraction. If it's taken away a quarter of your life, maybe it needs to go away. We have to get to this mindset where we treat distractions the same as sin. And if you look at this, Solomon's talking about an immoral woman here. But if we look at this and we just say that this could be for any distraction or any sinful thing, and he says here, it says, stay away from her. Stay away from her. Do not go near the door of her house. This is Proverbs 5:8. And so it doesn't say invite her out for a drink. It doesn't say, let's go into the back of the car, or let's go outside, and let's play spin the bottle or truth or dare. It doesn't say that. It doesn't say, let's try and test this. It doesn't say, when you start looking, it doesn't say don't get close to people. But what it does say is eliminate the distraction. Get rid of it. Don't let it be something that's there. Why is it that we have so many things? For some of you guys, you need to close the door. Anybody ever doing homework and you hear all the distractions of the house? I know that some of you guys are like beyond that. Like I'm at school, I'm not doing that anymore. But when I went back to school, the distractions, I would rather listen to music than hear all the stuff that was happening in the house. Close the door. I don't need that. For us, we need to close the door on the distractions. Some of us, we need to cancel Netflix. Some of us, we need to turn off the notifications on our phones. Some of us, we need to turn off the Xbox or the PS4 or whatever it is and get rid of it. It's causing a distraction. So most of us, we need to delete the distracting apps. They have to go away. Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, whatever it is that you have that's on your phone, whatever it is that's creating this distraction. Or just start learning this point and go, I'm going to leave my phone behind. It's so much of a distraction for me. There's often times where I'm leaving it in my office. I'm going out and I'm doing things because I don't need to pick it up every 12 minutes. I don't need to go off and check Facebook all the time. I don't need that. See, why resist temptation when you can eliminate temptation? Why resist it when you can eliminate it? You don't have to continue hanging on to it. And I know that some of you right now, you've already gone off in your own little distraction. You've already checked out. Some of you, and it's hard for me up here because I can see you guys straight zone out. So understand something. The lights aren't that bright that I can't see your faces. So I can see. So I see when you fall asleep. I go, well, that message sucked because I couldn't keep him awake. But I also see when you bury yourself into the game that you're playing on your phone, or if you're on Facebook, or if whatever. And so if you're wearing glasses, it's even worse because I see the reflection of whatever you're looking at. I see it instantly. Like, boom. There. What are you doing? And so sometimes it's a little hard to tell if you're on YouVersion or if you're on Facebook. But what I do know about YouVersion is that the title's almost always in dark colors, and what I know about Facebook, it's almost in blue. So if I see a reflection of blue, I know where you're at. And see, that's what happens in here. We come in to come worship God, and we allow the distractions of this to even prevent this. We made it a dedicated time to walk in the door and go, I'm going to go to church, the church of iPhone. That's what happens. And see, and I'm not opposed for you being on Facebook. Go ahead, waste away that 7 years. Enjoy it. It's really your call. But do you think that's honoring God? Do you think that that's honoring God? Do you think that's something that he goes, I want you to waste 7 years, or do you think he wants you to go out and make disciples? Do you think he wants you to go out and talk to people and go, this is who he is, and this is what he's done in my life? Because I can tell you right now, he didn't save you from your sin. He didn't save you from the path of destruction for you to get on your phone and spend 7 years there. He didn't do that. You're not called to be on your phone. You're called to make disciples. And we've forgotten that. We've forgotten it. And I know some of you guys, maybe the distraction is in social media. Maybe the distraction is something else. Maybe it's YouVersion. Maybe really it is YouVersion. Maybe it's the news. Maybe it's your emails. Maybe it's text. Whatever it is, eliminate the distractions that are pulling you away from God. Get rid of it. Get rid of it. Treat the distractions the same as sin. So, 1, diminish the distractions. 2, focus on the important. See, here's the thing. We have this tendency not to focus on the important. We want to be successful. We want to do more. Why don't you do more of what matters? Why don't you do more of what matters? Not just more stuff, more of what matters. Say no to the good to say yes to the best. Say no to the good to say yes to the best. And see, a lot of us, we're afraid of that. We're afraid of going, I might miss out. I might miss out on this. I might miss out on something else. But you will grow with your no's. When you say no to things, you will grow. You don't have to be people pleasers. You don't have to be this person that continues to go just say yes to everything in order to keep people from going, oh, you disappointed me. No. And see, for me, I look at this and go, if I am able and I can do it, then I'll do it. But if I said yes to everything, here, guys, do you understand that I have a family? So almost every birthday party I get invited to. Almost all of them. I get invited to all of your kids' plays. I get invited to all those things. Here's the thing. I have a family. They like to play sports. They have kids' things going on. They have stuff going on. I still have a job to do. I still have to write a message. I still run a school. I have all those things that are happening. I can't do all of it. I can't. So I have to say no. I have to say no to things. You have to learn how to say no too, because I used to try and say yes to everything. Every time somebody invited me, I was like, oh, they're from the church. I got to go. Got to be there. And literally it ran my wife and I ragged because we would try and divide and conquer sometimes. You go to that place, I'll go to this place. And you guys, obviously, if you know Melissa and I, how often do you see us apart from one another? It's kind of weird, right? You're like, I never see them apart from one another because we love each other that much, and we go and we love doing things with one another. We loved actually spending time with one another. We don't, we have our fights and our squabbles and stuff like that, but we don't ever have them to where we're going, I don't want to be around her. She has it to me. She's like, I really just need to get away from him for a while. But here's the thing is that what are we doing? What is it that we're going through? In what direction? And see, here's I got a story for you now. Let me get into this first. In Proverbs 4:25, it says, set your gaze on the path before you with fixed purpose, looking straight ahead. Ignore life's distractions. Watch where you're going. Stick to the path of truth, and the road will be safe and smooth before you. So you have to have a fixed purpose. What is it that God has asked you to do? Which direction? What are you supposed to be doing? And eliminate everything else that's in the way. A couple of years ago, we took the women out on a beach trip up to one of these beaches. I don't know. We had the bus still, so we went up to, and we got up there, and these guys put a slack rope out. Anybody know what a slack rope is? All right. So let me tell you what a slack rope is. It's like the width of a fire hose, so it's about 4 inches wide, okay? And they put it between two trees, and they actually intentionally, most of us, when we put a slack rope, or we put a rope out, like if you're going to try and walk on something, you want to make it a tight rope. You try and make it as tight as possible. That is not the case with the slack rope. They leave the U in it, right? They make it tight enough, but it's still got this U into it. It's got a nice little bounce to it. It reminds me of a bungee cord. And so I sat there and watched these people doing it, right? They got on this thing, they were doing flips on it, and I was like, I can do that. And so I'm sitting there trying to cook burgers for the women that are down on the beach, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to cook some burgers, I'm going to get some hot dogs out, and I walked over and I talked to the guys. I said, hey, can I try? Can I try this? And the guy, he looked at me and he looked at my size and he goes, you can try. He laughed at me, kind of like exactly like that. You can try. He said, I don't know how it's going to work out for you. No truer words were said. So I got on to the slack rope. And of course the U got a little bit bigger. And so, but you look at this and you try and have ninja balancing skills. You get on this and you're like, oh, Well, here's the thing. I put a lot of slack on it because I'm heavy. So when I fell off of it, I split my legs. And the slack rope, and so, but here's the thing is that I got back on it, and I had much more fixed purpose and glaze on it, though. I said, so you learn immediately from that mistake. I got back on it, and I tried, so what I learned was not to look down at my feet. Well, I learned don't look down at your feet because your feet don't tell you where you're going. You tell your feet where you're going. And so I looked straight ahead, and it made it to where I got to the one side, and I said, I got to get off of this thing because I can vision the pain coming again. But you have to start ignoring all the distractions. What we see with our feet, we go, oh, I'm off balance a little bit. When we look and we focus in our immediate, rather than where we're going, we get caught in the distractions. When we focus what's happening right here, we miss out on what's actually in front of us, what we're trying to get to, what direction we're going. And the distraction of the now prevents us from getting where we're trying to go. Look at Peter on the water. Peter steps out on the water, and he starts to focus. He sees that he's going to Jesus. And he keeps his focus on Jesus, but as soon as he gets distracted by the waves and the winds and everything else, he starts to sink. This is what happens with us. We get our focus on Jesus, and we start moving in that way, especially when we're first saved. We get first saved, and we go, I got to go in that direction. I got to pursue him with everything. And then all of a sudden, the distractions start coming in. The alerts, the text messages, the phone calls, the naysayers, all of that stuff starts coming in, and it divides us and it distracts us. We have this heart that wants to keep pursuing Jesus. We want to keep going in that direction, but yet we still want to be so part of this earth. In the worldly things, we got to have these stuff. We got to have the things. We got to have all the newest technology, so that way we get more alerts faster and easier. And we got to have a newer phone because it's so slow. Anybody remember AOL? So Susan just came out and said she still has AOL. She does not have the AOL that she had when she first, she may still have an AOL account. Here's the thing. Anybody remember downloading a photo with that? Remember that you'd log in and go ding, 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 and start making all crazy noises, and then take 5 days to download the photo that you got from grandma or whatever? You'd be like, oh, I got to go check on the computer, see where we're at. Shake the mouse. Be like, nope, only a quarter of the way there. Be back tomorrow. But now, anybody in here, when you look at it, you go, that's slow. When you're getting, you look at Facebook and it goes, it didn't load the video. It didn't load this. What's wrong with this? This thing's a piece of junk. No, let's go back just 10 years. Let's just take a 10-year rewind. And so it's advancing so fast. But the distraction is making it to where we're not doing what God has asked us to do. We lose focus of him, and we get so focused on the immediate that we forget what we're supposed to be doing. We have to start taking and have this pure focus on what God has asked us to do. I feel like I went ahead. So we talk, anybody, I might skip this. Never mind. Proverbs 4:26. Don't allow yourself to be sidetracked, not even for a moment, to take the detour that leads to darkness. Don't allow yourself to be sidetracked for even a moment to take the detour that leads to darkness. Diminish the distractions. Focus on what's unimportant. Listen to the voice of God. Have we been listening to the voice of God? Have you been, what is he asking you to do? Isaiah 30:21. And your ears shall hear the word behind you saying, this is the way, walk in it. And when you turn to the right or when you turn to the left, see, here's the thing is, what voice are you hearing? Are you hearing God's voice? What voice are you hearing? When you're moving along, what are you hearing? Because see, so often for us, we're hearing whatever that social media voice is, whatever that distracting voice is, whatever's happening, whatever's going on. What are you hearing up here, though? What's pulling you away? Where is it taking you? And sometimes those are good things, is what I want to tell you. Sometimes you do this stuff, and they're good things. The problem is they're not the best things. They're not the best things. They're not the best thing for you. They're not the best thing for your family. They're not the best thing that's going to be, or it's really not honoring God. What noise of this world are we allowing to distract us from his voice? And see, I will tell you that while you can hear, when you start looking at this and you can hear God in the earthquake, you can hear God in the thunder, you can hear him in the wind, you can hear all those things, I will tell you, you tend to find him in the quiet. I will tell you, you tend to find him there. And see, the quiet for us is uncomfortable. And I can tell you right now, the quiet for us becomes unnerving sometimes. I mean, like if I was just to sit here and go, all right, how long going to go? How long can we just go, all right, worship today is going to be just us standing here looking at one another for 40 minutes. How many of us got to pick up our phone? How many of us got to do something? We're just going to try and hear the voice of God. We're going to just sit here and go, God, tell me what to do. Most of us can't do it. Most of us, I got to turn on the music. I got to do something. I just can't. We have gotten to the point where we can't even tolerate the voices in our head that are telling us to follow him. We love the voices that are like, all right, pick up the phone. And see, we've eliminated boredom. Apple did us a favor and eliminated boredom, right? You'll never be bored again. You have an iPhone. You pick it up, you can see what everybody else is doing, whatever else is going on. But it's also eliminated you listening to the voice of God. That's what's happened. Because you've gotten to this point where you're so busy and your mind is going so fast in so many different directions that you don't hear what God is trying to tell you now. And so meditation, this word of focus, the way of focusing on God and what he wants to do in your life, we've stopped doing it. I talk to people and they go, I pray when I'm driving. I pray when I'm showering. I'm praying when I'm doing this. What about just actually taking time, being quiet, and actually spending time with him in just the pure quiet, no other distractions, nothing else going, so that you can hear his voice. And that's why, anybody ever wonder why Jesus got up in the morning and just went off on his own? And it says he got up before everybody else. He got up before everybody else, and he went outside, and he was by himself. Because I want you to imagine back then. So here's the thing. In today's world, when you get up before everybody else, you're really not up before everybody else, right? People still have stuff going on. You hear cars running everywhere. Back then, when you got up before everybody else, it was quiet. There was nothing. You didn't hear the traffic signal going. You didn't hear a plane taking off from Travis Air Force Base. You didn't hear any of that stuff. You heard quiet. You would hear the water running, like through a creek bed. And you would hear the crickets. And you would hear nature. Anybody in here ever go walking or you ever go hiking you decide, hey, let's go to the redwoods and let's go walk to the redwoods. Or you go out and instead of, maybe you just go out to John Muir National Forest and you just start walking and you start walking through nature and you don't have this with you. Because that right there is that distraction that pulls you away from it. But you just go walking and you're not worried about taking pictures because you know that you'll be back and you have a mental memory of it because you go, I've been here and I have this true encounter with God. You ever notice how much you hear God then? You take away everything, you start walking along, and in your mind, you start spending time with him, even as you're walking, as you're focused and moving in that direction, because there's no other distractions. There's nothing else. The word tells us, he says, I'll lie you down in green pastures. near quiet waters so that your soul can be restored. Some of you are getting this prompting right now, the nudging. That's going, I have to make a change. The guide is coming out right now. It's going, what do I need to take off my phone? What do I need to do differently? Which direction do I need to go? How do I go? And so when you look at this, Nehemiah goes back to Jerusalem. Nehemiah, so I love this story about a cupbearer too. The cupbearer actually has everything going. He just has to test for poison all the time. But the cupbearer hears about what's happening in Jerusalem and the walls have fallen. But see, the thing is that reconstruction started to happen. What we hear about is we hear about Ezra going back and teaching the word. And we hear about them going and rebuilding the temple. And he hears that the walls are still down, and he goes, I have to go make a change. And so he goes and asks the king of Babylon, and he goes, hey, I want to go back. And the king of Babylon goes, I know that your God is the one true God, and so you need to go back and rebuild the walls. And so he goes back, and he starts rebuilding the walls. And as he starts to rebuild the walls, he has people around him that are going, why are you doing that? He has these naysayers that are continuing going, and they offer the distraction. And Sanballat and Tobiah, they're going, why are you doing this? Why do they keep trying to distract him? And what he says is, I am doing a great work. I can't come down right now. You need to go away. This is what he tells them. And he rebuilds the walls of Jerusalem in 52 days. Hey, I'm doing a great work right now. I can't come down. I can't be distracted by your nonsense, by your naysaying, by whatever it is. I can't come down for this. Because and for us, we get so lost in the distractions. We get so lost in going, what am I supposed to? And I'll tell you, is that your life is too valuable for the distractions. And the calling upon you is so great. And our God is too good for you to continue to waste your life in the distractions. Let me repeat this. Your life is too valuable. It is too valuable. When God looks down upon you, he goes, this is my mighty warrior. This is my mighty princess. It is too valuable to let it be wasted upon the distractions of your phone, the distractions of Instagram, the distractions of whatever it is. Your calling is too great. You are saving people from going to hell. Your calling is too great. You are literally what saves them from going in that direction of eternal damnation. Eternal separation. I don't know if I go, man, your Instagram feed is amazing. It's saving people from heaven. Or it's saving people from hell. But the food certainly looks delicious. And our God is too good for you to continue to be just go, it's a waste. But that's what we've done. That's what we've turned it into. And we just allowed it to keep doing this. And we go, and I have this, I have this deep sense going that we need to make some serious changes. Like it's just this calling going, I need to make deep changes. This morning, as I was getting ready, and I go, we have to do something different. What does it look like? And I know some of you guys, you don't even have an office phone anymore, right? You don't, there's no, or a home phone or anything. And so you go, I can't get rid of my cell phone. I need this digital leash. And some of you make a living based upon this. You're doing the gig thing. You're out there doing Uber and Lyft, and you're doing that stuff. But even still, what about how much it's pulling you away from what God has asked you to do? How much time has Facebook taken away? How much time has Pinterest taken away? How much time is Instagram? How much time is all that stuff taken away? And how much has it destroyed your relationship with God because you've gone, that's so much more important? The light, the distraction that you just go, I have to be here. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I've calmed down on posting. The reason why is because I don't want you, if it's distracting, it's pulling you away from, then I can't keep doing that. And granted, I know that all of us are on Facebook and all of us are in that direction, but for me, my job is to get you to pursue Him, get you to pursue God and move in the direction He's asked you to go, not to spend time doing, not to spend time focused on the distractions, but to be focused on Him. Last week we talked about just unpacking stuff. We said you have to get rid of things, and it's time to start getting rid of stuff and cleaning out closets and getting rid of stuff that's in the garage, stuff that you haven't spent a year looking at, or even if you looked at it in the past year, you haven't touched it, you haven't used it, you haven't had one of those things. And so the big thing is that last week, did anybody go out and make those changes? Did you say it's time for me to start getting rid of stuff? Or did you just keep going in the direction that you're going? You're like, nope, he wasn't talking to me. I can be the pack rat. He was talking to somebody else in the room. And then this week we start looking at this and we go, am I actually going to make a commitment to start getting rid of the distractions? So here's what I ask you to do is that maybe I ask you to take your cell phone out and delete those apps. Delete what you don't need. Delete what's distracting you. Delete the Instagram, delete the Facebook, delete the Snapchat, delete those things. And I know you're going, no, I got a streak going on Snapchat. I can't get rid of that. That's too important. Really? More important than God? More important than your relationship with Jesus? How's your streak on YouVersion? When you open up YouVersion, is your streak as good as your Snapchat streak? I got a streak going with 5 different people. How's your streak with God? Maybe it's time to start looking and going, this is what my focus should be. Maybe instead of having a Snapchat streak, maybe you should have a telephone streak where you actually pick it up and go, hey, I actually want to let you know that I love you and I truly enjoy the real relationship we have instead of the fake one we have on Snapchat. Or the fake one we have on Facebook, or the fake one we have on Instagram, where I like your photos, you like my photos, but you knew that I took it 25 times in order to have the lighting perfect and that everything was perfect. I had to move the peas away from the carrots so that it looked perfect on the plate. But I got your like, I saw it. Maybe we need to start looking and going, I need to remove those distractions. Not that you get rid of it completely. You can go get on your computer and get to it. Maybe I don't have a computer. Well, then when you need the app, download it. Then get rid of it again. But I'm going to tell you right now that if it's taking away from God's glory, and it's taken away from honoring Him, then you probably should permanently delete it. I'll tell you that's what my plan is to do. I'm just going to permanently delete it off my phone because it distracts that much. I'm also probably going to permanently delete the news app off my phone because it distracts. I get wound up in it. I love current events. I love what's happening. I love what's happening in history. But it's taking me away. I get wound up in it, and it's destructive. Make a commitment and go, I want to honor God and move in that direction. Let's pray. Father, help us remove the distractions. Help us that as we're looking at this year, or as we look at Christmas time, we get so wound up in the distractions of shopping and buying and getting more stuff that's taking us away from actually knowing you and loving you. And so the phone does it. And we call it idolatry, but it's really even more than that. It's not that we don't put Facebook above God, but what happens is it just distracts us away from you. We don't put Snapchat above you. We don't put those things above you, but the distraction causes us to waver and lose our focus on you, and we start to sink just as Peter did. So, Father, we ask that as we're sinking, you reach out and you lift us up and you help us have this constant focus and this constant gaze on you. Help us realign to you. Help us to realign our vision to you. Help us realign that we continue to pursue you no matter what's happening and no matter whatever's going on in our life, no matter what distraction, whatever hiccup is happening, that we look and go, how can I honor you through this? How can I help reach people for you through this? How can I help make disciples through this? How can I help love this community? How can I help do what you've asked me to do? Father, whatever that is. Father, we know that your plan is so amazing and so mighty, but it involves each one of us. Your plan involves each one of us. That's the reason why we're still here alive and breathing. Because you've asked us to do work. You've asked us to go out and make disciples, to go out and to know you better and to have a true relationship with you, just not a fake one. Father, help us to realign, to have a living and breathing relationship with you, and to love as you've asked us to see with your heart, to see with your eyes, to feel with your heart, and to do what you've asked us to. Father, we know that you look at each one of us and see us as a mighty warrior, a beautiful princess, a strong warrior, and called us to do the work. Help us keep our focus on you so we know what we're fighting for and we know what we're working for. Father, thank you. It's in your Son, Jesus' name, that we pray. Amen.
Praise